Hey Trails Collective, Ian here for the weekly rundown of the Northeast trail running community for week ending August 27th, 2021. So I've been pretty busy on vacation here up on the St. Lawrence River. Some good days on the water, actually some beautiful days out on the river in the water. But hopefully you've all been doing something fun as well on your end. I didn't get a really chance to look into much media this week. I know one of the headlines was the death at UTMB. Always tragic, any death, let alone one in the context of the trail community and events. I suppose it is a risk that many of us sign up for, whether it be for a number of reasons that I've encountered or unfortunately experienced or witnessed at events. In this case, from a tragic fall on a pretty technical section of one of the UTMB series events. So unfortunate, and but that was something that did come across my radar. All right, so I will run you through some of the UltraSignUp Hotlist events, those that are soon to cap out with registration. So if you are interested, now would be the time to get on them. Some of the events coming up, we will have some guest speakers taking us through some events that are on deck or coming up, as well as run through some of the FKTs of the week, as well as some of the results and bringing in voices from a handful of events that ran this past weekend. All right, so let's get into it. Let's go through some of the UltraSignUp Hotlist. So some of the events that are about to cap out, so now would be the time to get on them. In Connecticut, the Forgotten Forest 9-hour Ultra running September 18th in Stratford, Connecticut is 98% full. In New York, Tesla Hertz's 100-mile distance and 100K running October 9th in Rocky Point, New York, put on by the crew at Happily Running, are 96% and 93% full respectively. In Vermont, the Shunemunk 50K, two different races, or two different options, one for Saturday, one for Sunday, are 92% and 90% full, 92% Sunday, 90 on Saturday. So get on Shunemunk now if you're interested. And let's see, I think that was all I had on the hot list. There may be others, but they're the ones that I'm able to check and track via UltraSignUp. Registration's opening this week to keep your eye out for if you're interested in getting on them. I don't think any of these are ones that sell out immediately, so you've got time, but just as a heads up. In New Hampshire, Pleasant Ridge Run in New London, running October 16th, opens September 1st. New Jersey, the Valley Trail Series, races 3, 4, and 5, all running in Alpine, New Jersey, open on August 28th, this Saturday. And then in Pennsylvania, the Howlands Neck Ache 12-hour and 24-hour, which I'm not familiar with. I don't know whether they're inaugural or just haven't hit my radar in the past. Running on April 23rd in Taconic, PA, open September 1st. Let's get into FKTs. Actually, most of the action here was in New Hampshire this past week. Jesse Wall, 8 hours, 15 minutes for the Davis Path, Dry River Loop. This route uses the third longest bridle path up Mount Washington in the Presidential Range. Gained a bit over 7,000 feet, and I think it was 26.5 miles. It looked like a really beautiful loop. Jesse's time is the third posted. Historically, it lowers the prior FKT from October 2020 by over 2 hours. Nice work, Jesse. Courtney Hassel, 16 hours, 1 minute for the Northern Rail Trail, a 95-kilometer route. An opening women's supported mark on this for this route. And David Hedges, 2 hours, 46 minutes for the Cannon and Kinsman's Loop, 11.5 miles with 4,865 feet of gain, notching roughly 40 minutes off of Eric Harbeck's time from September 2020. And in a multi-state one that looked pretty, I think epic is often overused, but this looks like a pretty outstanding, if not epic little series or circuit that they put together. Ellen Beth and Sarah Ports Connor, 12 hours, 29 minutes for the Mount Washington, Mount Mansfield, Mount Greylock Challenge. Carring between the routes and doing out and backs up each of these summits, I believe, were all of the routes versus loops. This spanned New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts. Up first, if I was getting it correctly, was Mount Washington via the Tuckerman's Ravine. Just under 8 miles with 4,000 feet of elevation gain. Leg 2 was Mount Mansfield, 4 miles and 2,400 feet of gain. And third leg was 4.3 miles and 2,100 feet of gain with Mount Greylock. So that looks like it was probably pretty outstanding. So nice work, Ellen and Sarah. All right, so let's get into some results with some voices from the field, or from the collective rather. Mountain Lake's Backyard Ultra, last person standing event put on by the crew at Steep Endurance, ran in North Salem, New York. Mountain Lakes was a North American qualifying race for Big Dog's Backyard Ultra. Of 42 finishers, Marc Kelley of New Britain, Connecticut took the win with 83.4 miles covered, and to be the last person standing. Last standing female on the day, Annam Swart of Connecticut, was 62.55 miles covered. I was able to check in, thanks to Brian, with Marc. I will weave in his clip here.
Cheers, Ian and Trails Collective. This is Marc Kelley giving you a race report from this past weekend's Backyard Ultra at Mountain Lakes. That was a Backyard Ultra put on by Steep Endurance, race directed by Brian Vanderheiden. If you've never done a Backyard Ultra, I highly recommend it because it's a great atmosphere. It's a 4.167 mile loop every hour at the start of the hour, and you get to spend the entire hour running next to your fellow runners and trading stories, sometimes talking trash, sometimes encouraging, helping where you can, and trying to make sure everybody makes it as far as they can. This one happened to start at 6:30 at night on Friday, which made it tough because I'm sure nobody got a nap beforehand. And we did one day loop, and then we started the night loop. There were two different loops, obviously. The night loop that we started at 7:30 was a 4.167 mile run up a torturous medieval torture chamber carriage road that went up for a mile, probably down for about a mile, and then back up for what felt like 7 miles, and then back to the start line. So even though it wasn't a hard run, after 10, 11 laps of that carriage road, it really started to get monotonous, and you started to really look forward to see what would happen during the daytime. So the sun starts to come up, it starts to get a little bit lighter, you start to look forward to something else, and then all of a sudden you start the day loop. The day loop starts out on the same carriage road for a short bit, and then you get some nice, flowy, single track trails to kind of let the legs open up, enjoy a little bit, get some speed going, get a different pace, and really enjoy it. The race started off with 40 plus runners, and it was interesting to see everybody's strategies. It was, do I walk the ups? Do I walk the downs? Do I run the ups? Do I run the downs? Do I do short bursts? And everybody had a different strategy, so it was really, really interesting to see. Plus, it was nice to get to chat with different runners, meet people from different areas, hear their stories, hear their why, see what they're doing. And even though everybody starts at the very same time, you only spend a moment here and there with these fellow runners. Aid station was fantastic. I really want to point it out because for the first 6 or 7 hours of that race, every hour they had a different course for us, from hamburgers to hot soup to hummus wraps to egg wraps in the morning. It was just a constant barrage of interesting foods to keep our minds and our bellies full. Absolutely would recommend any steep endurance race, but specifically if you're looking to get a distance goal or just to push your limits to see how far you can make it with the support of people around you that want to see how far you can make it, absolutely do a Backyard Ultra. And if it comes this time next year, jump into Steep Endurance's Mountain Lakes Backyard Ultra because it's absolutely primo, top-notch, beautiful area, and the volunteers and the people that participate make absolutely every single mile worth it. So I think the Raced, like I said, started with 40 some odd runners. By morning, we were down to probably somewhere around 20. And every time you hit a big milestone like 50 miles, some people would pull out a little bit, hitting goals. The final, after you get to 100K, it dived off again as well. And then the final two runners made it to 79 miles and just under 84 miles respectively. It's a blast. Come run one of these races. Cheers.
One in New York, Jenkins Mountain Scramble. Trail 10K and a half, ran at Paul Smith College in the Adirondacks. Of 33 finishers and a half, Ben LeBlanc of Saranac Lake took the win in 1:49, with top women's spot going to Jessica Hatfield. Ooh, mosquitoes are about to start coming out. For the 10K, Aiden Hasseltine of Saranac Lake, with top woman on the day going to Jessie Church of Paul Smith's. Shooting down to West Virginia, Cooper's Rock 50K and half marathon ran in Brewston Mills. Of 63 finishers of the 50K, Phil Henry took the overall win in 4:33, with top women's spot going to Amy Stolman, second overall in 4:38. In the half marathon of 108 finishers, Matthew Lemine and Hannah Stillings took the overall wins, with Molly Knox taking the top women's spot in 4:53. Katie Kelley of Morgantown was able to check back in with us and cue us into beautiful Cooper's Rock.
What's up, Trails Collective? I'm Katie. Thanks for having me on. I've run a couple ultras, nothing too crazy, just a few 50Ks and one 50-miler. I've enjoyed every minute of it, even the painful ones. I decided to run a local race, the Cooper's Rock, local for me, the Cooper's Rock 50K. This year it was in August due to coronavirus, but normally it's in April. So the weather was quite warm. I think most people who run this race every year are used to seeing some snow and some colder conditions and dressing for that, preparing for that. But this year it was pretty warm, but weather-wise we did get really lucky. We didn't rain on us or anything. The course was pretty dry, which was good, but it was fairly warm, so it was really important to stay hydrated. And this year it seemed to be a really good turnout. Dave Hopkinson and team reported, I don't know the exact number, but it was, I think, between 180 and 200 registrants, so that was really great for the Cooper's Rock Foundation. Hopefully raised a lot of money for the foundation this year, so that's great, especially because they had to cancel last year. The course markings were done really well. I personally know some people who were on the course marking team, and they put their all into it. They really wanted to make sure people knew where they were going, and I think they did a really good job. There was some sabotaging along Rattlesnake Trail. I believe that was the section, and some people did get a little turned around, but we clumped together in lost little packs, and we found our way eventually. So, you know, no harm there. The aid stations were really well placed. I think there were 4 of them total, but one of them we passed by at least 3 times, so it was really efficiently placed. It was really smart, and I only ran out of water 1 time, and that was just because I was carrying 1 bottle, and it was between aid stations 1 and 2 that I ran out. Then I never ran out again because we kept hitting aid stations, so that they were really well placed. Everyone did such a great job. The volunteers put their all into it. It was so great to see their smiling faces. The runners put their all into it, and especially with the, given the heat that we dealt with, obviously the race director and the team, they all did a really good job. As far as my race went, it was going really well, and I felt really strong. And then I think the mistake I made was popping a few ibuprofen mid-race. my stomach did not agree with that, and my race turned around probably within an hour. And when your stomach decides that you're done running, you're pretty much done running. But I pushed through. I did get sick on trail, but I pushed through and I finished without injury, and that was my A goal. So I'm very happy that that's how the day went. And you know, my friends were there. Got to see a bunch of smiling faces at the finish, and everyone did so well, and just had a great time. It was a beautiful day. We finished at the overlook, which was just beautiful to have that be your view as you're coming through the finish line. So, let's see. Yeah, so just everyone, Dave, the volunteers, the runners, everyone made that day special, and I highly recommend anyone who's coming through West Virginia or who lives near West Virginia. I had a chance to talk to some runners on trail, and afterwards, Mackenzie from Ohio drove all the way from Ohio to be here, and Lee, I believe his name was, from Indiana. So people came from all over to check out Cooper's and run these challenging but fun trails. And so yeah, highly recommend it if you haven't. Come out to Cooper's Rock in West Virginia, give it a try. I think you'll like it. You'll definitely come away with some stories, but I think you'll have a good time. All right, thanks a lot, Trails Collective.
So thanks so much for that, Katie, for that clip. And maybe I'll see you at West Virginia Trilogy. If not this year, maybe next year. All right, bouncing up to PA, Cook Forest 25K Trail Challenge. They've had great numbers. I think over 300 registered, I think Bob had said, the past 2 years. So that is a nice size event. 25K Trail Challenge in Cooksburg, PA. Came in again with a solid 300. I think it was something like 250 finishers or something to that effect. The wins were Brett Mason of Pittsburgh in 204, and Lauren Worrell in 224. And I was able to check in with Bob as well as the legendary AJW. RD and most excellent Bob, go ahead and cue us into your event, Cook Forest 25K.
Hey there, Trails Collective. Bob Bauer here, giving you a quick recap of the Cook Forest 25K Trail Challenge that went on this weekend. This year, for our third year in a row, we registered over 300 people on UltraSignUp to come out for the event. We had a handful of people show up race day and also registered for it. We had a lot of rain prior to the event, but luckily the last 2 days it dried out well enough. Trails were in great shape. Local DCNR worked their tails off and got some of the down trees out. We had a couple we still had to navigate, but it still was. They were in good shape. They weren't washed out real bad. Relatively dry. The morning started. It was pretty humid. Decent temperature. Still below 70, but it didn't take long once the sun come out for people to start to feel the humidity and hit the aid stations pretty hard. We had a bunch of new people come out, and that was our first place, and male and female. Brett Mason and Lauren Worrell, congratulations to them. They got to take a piece of the forest home with them to hang on the wall. They were really excited to come out and give it the first shot. First time they'd been around it, and nothing but good feedback. Had a little celebrity action with AJW reaching out and getting into the field, and coming off of his tough weekend over at World's End, and he made it through to the finish, and had a really good time. He brought something up to a point to me, saying that something that checked one of his boxes was a culture. And it's something that we really push here, embracing the trail community. And part of that is our aid stations. Big shout out to the 3 local cross-country teams, Clarion, North Clarion, and Clarion Limestone. Those 3 local cross-country teams manned our aid stations, and they've done this now since we started. And the people have been coming back. They're using Bluetooth speakers and building signs and cheering and keeping the runners going through. And it gives them an opportunity to see what the running future for them could look like after high school and college. Big shout out also to Nona, my wife. She helps me here behind the scenes, takes care of registration. April Zimmerman came in, gave her a hand, got everybody registered up and ready to go with their bibs and their packets. My brother Mike and Gary and Kevin and John, showed up and helped parking, and Gary stuck around and helped clean up after the end. Tony Ruth came out Friday, day before, helped me flag a big portion of the course. So the DCNR and the NCT and the Signal Volunteer Fire Department, those guys, they come out every year and support us. And so that's why we have these events. We continue to give back. Once the race pays for itself, all the proceeds get divvied up amongst those three groups. Signal Volunteer Fire Department has been keeping our runners safe for the last 3 years, and they just take care of the roads. The EMS is on site all day until the last runner comes in. The DCNR, those guys work their tails off, keeping the trails clean within the park, and we've been able to provide funding to help two of the trails that were just decimated by Mother Nature, and one was completely underwater, and we had to reroute 1 year, so we've got that back alive and well, rebuilt with the materials. And then the North Country Trail starts from the New York border and passes clean through the Cook Forest State Park, and there's a volunteer group that comes out, and we provide funds to them, and those guys get out there every Thursday, and they're rebuilding footbridges, they're cutting trails, leveling them out, picking up rocks, clearing down trees, and they do it not on the North Country Trail, but also a lot of the trails inside the park. So hats off, to all those guys, helping us out there. Just some quick snapshot of some of the demographics that UltraSignUp spits out to us. We're down the middle with male, female, almost 50% on each side, and then out of state registrations. This year, our furthest one was New Mexico, and we had Maryland, Virginia, Michigan, New York, and Ohio. And then in the local cities that seem to give up the most runners to us, again, are Pittsburgh and Erie. Pittsburgh coming in at 11%, and Erie providing 6%. So this year went really, really well again. Everybody had a good time. Wildflowers Barbecue provided chicken dinners for everybody, including spectators and family. We got plenty of chicken to eat here for the next couple of weeks. Our next event is the Highland Fall Scramble, scheduled for October 31st. 200 slots. Registration has been open now for a couple months. It's a point-to-point on the North Country Trail within the Cook Forest State Park. And so we bus you out. That's why there's only 200 slots. If you're interested, for those people that ran Cook Forest and enjoy it, check it out. You can check out the Facebook page, check out our YouTube channel, and see some of the videos that came out of that. That's about all we got. So, see you out on the trails. Take care.
All right, man. Thanks for that clip. And then also AJW, or Andy Jones-Wilkins, was in the mix in his new current state of Pennsylvania. And AJW, cue us into your experience at Cook Forest, and as well as maybe move it into the PA and further northeast trail scene.
Good morning, Trails Collective. This is Andy Jones-Wilkins checking in from the heart of the Beast Coast, Pennsylvania, also known around here affectionately as Roxylvania. Hey, I'm an ultra runner, been at it for a long time. I was born and raised here in the Beast Coast, and then spent a fair bit of time out west before coming back in the around 2011 and settling in Virginia, and now I'm up here in Pennsylvania. And I'm here today to share with you my experience this past weekend at the Cook Forest 25K. A race put on by Bob Bauer and his wife Nona, an incredible state forest and state park in the western part of Pennsylvania. Beautiful network of trails that are a little bit less rocky and rooty than your typical Pennsylvania trails. I jumped in kind of at the last minute, along with 200 or so other fun runners on a typically hot, humid August morning, and we ventured out of the campground and up the trail, up the Seneca Trail, a couple of steep climbs up to a tall fire tower that was beautiful. The camaraderie in the race was incredible, and it actually checked absolutely all of the boxes that I believe are the important boxes to check with a good trail run. Number one, an impeccably marked course. Bob and his team had marked it perfectly. You would have had to be blind and out of your mind to miss a turn at that course. He had something like 500 pin flags marking the course. Incredible aid stations. There was something unique about this race. The 3 aid stations were all manned by high school kids from all the local cross-country teams. It was so nice to be greeted with enthusiastic high school students cheering us on and taking care of our every need at the 3 aid stations. Kudos to those cross-country kids, and good luck with your upcoming seasons. And third, the race culture. It was a wonderful vibe at the beginning. Outstanding place to hang out at the end and sit in the sun and talk to your friends. A beautiful post-race spread of barbecued chicken and beans and potato salad and all the great stuff that you want in a trail run, and hanging out. And I was meeting new people just about everywhere on the trail. Ended up finishing with Kristen from the Pittsburgh area, who we just were kind of leapfrogging, where I was getting ahead of her on the uphills and she was catching back to me on the downhills, and ultimately we just decided to finish together, which was a lot of fun. So I would put it on your calendar. It fills up pretty quick. The Cook Forest 25K out in western Pennsylvania. I'm sure it's already on the calendar for next August, and it's well worth your time. As for what I'm up to for the rest of my time here, or the rest of the summer and into the fall, I've got another 25K this coming weekend, Crystal Lake nearby in Hughesville, Pennsylvania. Then I'm going to do a real flat back and forth at the Pine Creek Challenge in mid-September. A great race that I've heard a lot about, a 12-hour race called the Red Barn Challenge, where it's basically a beautiful 1-mile course that goes around a red barn in western Pennsylvania. And then that'll be on the weekend of October 2nd and 3rd, and all of that is in preparation for a trip out west that I'm going to take at the end of October to run the Javelina 100, a great 100-miler that I haven't run since 2007. So it's been a long time coming for me to head back out to Javelina. So there you have it, Cook Forest 25K. Get it on your calendar. Come out and check it out. Say hi to Bob and Nona. I know I'll be there next August. It's a great race and one to have on your calendar for the foreseeable future. So again, this is Andy Jones-Wilkins, also known as AJW. First time on the Trails Collective, and thank you all, and we'll see you next time out on the trails.
Andy, good to have you in the mix. Thanks for the clip, and it would indeed be awesome to share some miles coming up here at some point. All right, bouncing further up to New York. The Twisted Branch trail run went down. A really well done event using the Finger Lakes Trail in the Finger Lakes region. R.D. Scott does a really great job, top notch in all levels, I think, of producing the event, and a pretty cool event. So if not already on your radar, check it out. It is I think Western States qualifier, I believe, which I think gets that event to cap out, I think, fairly quickly. So if you're interested in that in the future, get on it quick if you're going to register. Phil Nesbitt took the win. Phil has done a clip for us in the past. I did check in just to say congrats. He had a good run. But I checked in with Scott McGee and Becky Kosek. I didn't get a chance to check out the results. I don't know if they were posted as of yesterday. So I don't actually know how it shook out aside from Phil getting the win, just because I'm connected with Phil and seeing it on Becky's post. I think Becky was second female overall, but I think she's going to cue us into that experience and how that all went here with her clip. So Becky, cue us into Twisted Branch.
Hey Trails Collective, this is Becky Kosek, and I'm here to share with you about my experience running Twisted Branch 100K this past weekend. I got interested in running Twisted Branch because I had run a section of it with a friend, and then I got to pace another friend, and my husband, Eric Idiot Runner Kosek, did it a couple years ago, and so I crewed him for that. So I was familiar with some of the aid stations and some of the sections, and figured I should do it for myself. The main one that I have done that I could compare it to would be World's End. And I've done World's End, I think, 3 times now. And it is not like World's End. There are climbs, but not World's End type of climbs that go on forever. There's a lot more runnable sections at Twisted Branch. The climbs are steep, but a lot shorter. I started out running hard and doing really well. The first half of the race, I was super happy with how I felt and how things were going. It was extremely humid, so I was soaking wet right from the beginning, as was everybody else, and I knew I had to make sure to eat and drink really well. I decided not to wear a vest and to only take a handheld. I'm not sure if that was the best idea. I think when I did get to my low, that may have been a factor. I probably hit my low around 30 miles, from probably 30 to 40. It was a pretty long, maybe even 45, pretty long low. And I was struggling with eating. It was hot, my stomach, I just didn't want to eat. I know all of you know exactly how that is. I was drinking well, making sure to empty my bottle every time, and every time I came into an aid station, I was filling up my bottle plus chugging as much as I could before, and I was making quick time at the aid stations. But as you know what it's like when you come to a low, it was like the negativity monster was eating me alive. I just didn't want to. I really was struggling for a while. And then Eric gave me a Red Bull and some other food, and I was able to eat and drink a little bit more, and I definitely recovered from the last 15-20 miles. I was running really well again and super happy. I would say the end was my favorite part. It was really runnable and really nice scenery. A lot of like running along the woods, right along a cliff. It drops down so you can see the water and waterfalls. The Finger Lakes Trail is a beautiful trail. Probably the one thing I didn't like is there were sections of it that were like field rows. So it wasn't, it was like hay mode. And it was hard to run in, and I really hate running in fields. So every time I got to those sections, I really despised them. There was a lot of mud and a lot of water, which I expected with all the rain that we had gotten, and they had gotten a lot. But they had said the trail drained pretty well, and I would say it did, but there were sections that were pretty rough. That pretty much like shoe-sucking mud that you really had to slow down on. I turned my ankle about a mile and a half in, which was a little scary at first because I was like, oh, this is not a good way to start. But once I got past the initial pain and got going again, it was fine. It impeded me some on going downhill, which is usually a really good strength of mine. But by the end, I really didn't have much pain from it at all. It's swollen, a little angry at me, but for the most part, it was fine. The race was well organized, thanks to race director Scott McGee. He had a lot of volunteers working with him, and I know he worked long and hard, and he put together a good race. One of the things I really liked that he had available was a program called Open Split Time, and you're able to put in your time goal, and it'll tell you what time you should be getting to each aid station, which was super helpful for your crew and your pacers. And it was spot on for what I wanted. My goal was, to run hard and to get sub 14 hours. I had Eric as my crew and as my pacer, He's also my coach, so huge thanks to him. He paced me for the last 6 miles of the race and did an awesome job pushing me to run as hard as I could. And the last part of the race is a real big climb, and then a pretty technical, rolly type trail that's very rooty and kind of like the side of the mountain that just keeps going straight across and comes back. And then a really steep descent, very similar to like what you find at World's End or at Eastern States even. They always seem to end in that steep descent. So he really pushed me on that. He knew what my goal was and he knew I could make it. He always had confidence in me. So I came down that steep descent. It brings you right out to the main road, and there were people there to help you cross, and they're telling me, no, don't go, there's cars going, and I said, no, I'm not going to stop. Of course, Eric's like, no, stop, and here comes a Jeep flying by, and it totally would have creamed me in the road, so it was good that I stopped. And then it's a sprint across the lawn, right at Keuka Lake, to the finish line. And I was super excited. They didn't have a time clock. They have a really cool archway that you run through, this wooden arch, and as their finish line, and it's awesome. But they didn't have a time clock, so I'm like, unsure how close it really was. So when I find out I was second female and I came in at 13:53, super happy. So overall, it was a really good day, and it was a really well put together race. Thanks for checking in with me, and I'll see you out there on the trails.
All right, so great job. And in Voorheesville, the Thacher Park Trail Running Festival offered distance of 10K, half marathon, marathon, and 50K. Of 85 in the 10K, the men's and women's wins went to Giovanni DeMattis, and Amy Luke. In the half, Tim Mahoney and Jenna Robinson. In the marathon, Jared Desrosiers, something like that, and Rebecca Chapman. And in the 50K, Patrick Shealy, just Patrick Shealy. I don't think there was a any women in the 50K in that event. I'll have to get on that and do some more outreach. And queuing us into Thacher Park, which was not on my radar prior, is somebody huge to give a huge thanks from my vantage point. Ray Fry has been an integral volunteer for some of my events, including Cayuga Trails. So it was cool to see him go after. I think he was initially going to go after his first 50K. But in any case, Ray, cue us into Thacher Park.
Hey Ian, this is Ray Fry here talking about my experiences this past weekend at the Thacher Park Trail Running Festival out in Voorheesville, New York. First, a little bit about me. I've been a trail runner for a while now, and just an in-general runner for many years now as well. I've been part of the Binghamton Area Trail Runners. I'm president of the Triple Cities Runners Club, and I'm also an ambassador for Boco Gear and Noon. So, leading up to the Thacher Park Trail Running Festival, I really hadn't done any long distance trail races. My furthest distance trail race had been a 10-miler, so I was really excited this year to attempt my first ultra marathon and run the 50K distance. Thacher Park did have a few different distances to choose from. There was a 10K, a half marathon, a marathon, and a 50K. And I was actually lucky enough to have friends running almost every single one of those distances as well. So everybody started together at the beginning of the race, but conditions just weren't, I think, what many of us were expecting. Temperatures began out in the 70s, leading up to the 80s by the end of the race, with a dew point of 70. So super kind of humid and uncomfortable in that sense. And then you also had the race director who said that because of all the rain we've been getting lately, there were some pretty horrendous mud pits out there for a few miles on the course. But overall, it was still a beautiful, beautiful course. So you get out there, everybody does the same beginning 10K loop, which goes by just a breathtaking hang glider cliff. that you get to see off and just look over the Albany area. And then you come down and you go nearby the finish line where your 10K finishers finish, and everybody else continues on to kind of do another loop out along an escarpment area. So lots of fencing, looking over just beautiful cliff sides and all that, which just made it super, super motivating to do that. By the end of the half marathon, I was feeling pretty good. Conditions felt great for my legs. I was feeling fantastic, ready to go back out towards that hang glider clip for my second lap of the 13 miles. And that's when the wheels kind of started to fall off. I was really starting to feel the humidity, feel the mud that was just kind of throwing off my hips and things like that. And continued to try to continue to push on and all of that. Came back towards the finish line and luckily got to see some of my friends who really pushed me on, and started to go out into the second little loop, the ending of the 13 miles, or would have been the marathon. And you just start to feel it there. I had gotten that feeling, which I'm sure other trail runners have experienced before, where you kind of feel that pop underfoot when you realize that you probably had a blister that just popped. And I just decided that at that point, the 50K just wasn't the best idea for me that day. Finished off with the marathon, and I'm still super proud of that. That would be my first trail marathon ever. So from going from my only trail race ever being a max of 10 miles to a marathon, I feel super proud of that. So again, I'd really be up to trying another ultra at some point in the future, and I'd consider going back to that race as well. Just incredible props to all of the volunteers, Josh and Ari, who put on the race. I mean, super, super well-marked course, and just beautiful, beautiful views. I think just many of us kind of had the trail conditions and the weather conditions kind of work against us. I know there were about 37 people registered for the 50K, and about half of those actually finished. Many dropped down to distances as well. So again, for being my first marathon, trail marathon, I'm super, super proud of that, and was super glad to be able to have my friends and other Binghamton area trail runners along with me. So thanks again for having me on, and I highly suggest Thacher Park to anyone who wants to run that.
One that was on my radar prior, but I had missed it this year, was Interstate 17 down in New Jersey. Looks like a pretty cool, tight course. A fairly, I think, low-key or off a lot of people's radar event. The win went to Sergey Chepyshev. Sergey's checked in with us before. All of you don't know Sergey. He's he's got a classic jorts that he often wears in a lot of races, which makes him very identifiable. He's been a couple of my events this year, or I've connected with him at a couple of events. I took the win over 12 finishers with Chance Parker and Corey Bronstein rounding out the podium. And Sandy Galindo was on top for the women in 6:01. And we got a clip here from Sergey. So Sergey, cue us into the Interstate 17.
Hi Trail Collective! After double trouble 30K 2 weeks ago, this past Saturday I did Interstate 17. A really cool trail race at Gloucester, New Jersey. The course consists of 4 loops, 4 plus miles each around the state line lookout at the Palisades Interstate Park. You run 3 loops counterclockwise, followed by a final loop clockwise. You must check in after completion of each loop to have your time card punched. The course is pretty intense, but I would say runnable, with about 3,800 feet of vert, stone and timber stairs, giant boulders and scrambling along the Hudson River. Despite the humidity, it went better for me this time, since I did not get lost after first mile, as it happened to me and few other folks in 2017, when we all headed south after descending to the river. It was a good training for me for the upcoming fall races. I'm actually doing a Boulders field next month as a final shakeout before heading to Tennessee for Barkley Fall Classic the following week. I want to thank Forest Trail Striders and awesome RD Adam on his Interstate 17 number 5. I hope you guys all be able to join this trail party next year and help this awesome event grow. Big shout outs to race photographer Jason as well for braving the course. Here's some cool pics from him. Congrats to all runners who towed the trail. More trails ahead.
All right, so congrats, buddy. And then on the national scene, 2 that went down Leadville. Some of the, I think, press went to Anton being back in the saddle. And I think he had a really great day out there. So it's good to see Anton hopefully healthy and running well. A friend of mine, Matt Flaherty, also was back in the mix after a few years out of the same level of intensity in competitive racing. I think he finished 2nd overall for the men, and I did check in with him, and yeah, things went really well for him. So congrats, Matt. It's good to see you back in the mix as well. And then from the Northeast, caught up with 2. One or in the mix with the MPF or Mountain Peak Fitness crew is Harry Hamilton on the full Leadman series with both the biking and running piece. Harry is hoping to get over a clip, but had some stuff. Week just didn't go as he planned, so he didn't get it in, but congrats, Harry. And then another one, one of my good friends, Jay Friedman, who is a most excellent coach and one of the coaches for Leadville, cued me into some of his athletes doing pretty well. And one of them was Abigail Tracy, or Abbe, who had a really great day out there for her first 100. And Abbe was able to follow up with a clip. So Abbe, cue us into your Leadville experience.
Decided to do Leadville on the recommendation of a friend. Basically, he decided to do it, and I said, well, you're not doing it without me. So I signed up for the Leadville 100. In terms of whether or not I was prepared for it, I would say no. I don't know if you can really be prepared for it. So I had never done an ultra before that. I ran in college, and then I ran a couple marathons, but I had never done an ultra. My coach prior to when I ran Leadville had me run a couple ultras, one of which was the 50-mile at Bryce, or in Bryce Canyon. That didn't go so well. I vomited a huge portion of the race and ended up getting 2 IVs in the med tent afterwards. So that wasn't the most successful ultra experience before Leadville that I had. But then afterward, I ran a Red Wing Trail Ultra as well, like in upstate New York. That went a little bit better, so that was good. And then I had some couple longer, training runs that my coach Jay Friedman, had recommended. He's with Boundless. And then I ran Leadville. I'm honestly still surprised that I was able to finish it. Unfortunately, I also got sick for the last 30 miles during Leadville and then subsisted mainly on Coca-Cola the entire time. But it was an amazing experience. Crossing that finish line, there's absolutely nothing like it. But in terms of whether or not I was prepared, I would say no. I don't know if there's anything that can really mentally prepare you for, one, that course, but also just, running, seeing multiple sunrises, multiple sunsets, all of that. Certainly not for me. Obviously, it was my first 100, the furthest I've ever run. I can tell you that I certainly wanted to quit at 88 miles, but then in my head I was like, well, you've already ran 88 miles, so I couldn't. But yeah, it was kind of a crazy experience, and I'm so glad that I did it. I think, going into the race, everybody talked about Hope Pass, and certainly that was difficult, but what I would say is that power line, inbound, and even just the last 5 miles of the race were the hardest for me. I think at that point, mentally you're just sick of climbing. But it was a great day. It was an absolutely great day, and I just want to, say thank you to my coach Jay, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without him. But also, just a shout out to everybody else who finished. I think it was a very difficult day out there, and I'm really proud to have finished with the individuals that I did. So.
All right, so great job, Abbe. That is pretty stellar, especially out of the gates there. So great job, and thanks for following up with that clip. Congrats. And keeping with the action in Colorado, another one that went down was the Pikes Peak, Pikes Peak, both up and down, as well as the Ascent. One that was on my social media radar, at least a friend in my feed, was Kassandra Marin. She was second northeast, as well as 8th overall female, and 3:10 for the Ascent. The top northeast male went to David Rosk of Brooklyn, New York, in 30th overall in 3:02. But I was able to check in with Kassandra, and she did follow up with a clip here to cue us into the Pikes Peak Ascent. I know that's one that has some, I think, allure to many people. It's just a classic, it's been going on for a while, but just a classic trail and mountain race. So cue us into Pikes Peak.
Hey, what's up? My name's Casey. I'm from Merrimack, New Hampshire, and over the weekend I went and I ran the Pikes Peak Ascent in Colorado. It's a race that I've been wanting to do for probably a decade. I used to live in Colorado. My husband was stationed at Fort Carson, so we lived in Colorado Springs. Pikes Peak was basically our backyard. And it's just been on my bucket list forever. I was super excited when I got the invite to be part of the competitive entry field, and I just couldn't pass it up. So we went out. I did some research beforehand on like who was running and looked at some Strava segments. I didn't stress it too much. I knew, most of my training for Mount Washington is probably kind of similar to what I would be doing for Pikes Peak anyway. It's a similar overall grade of like 12 to 13% incline. And I've been training for Mount Washington, like I've done it, I've been training for 4 years. 2020, the race didn't happen. So, I've been getting incline workouts in for forever. So I felt like I had a good idea going into it. I did ask for some advice from sea level leggers. Specifically reached out to Katie O'Regan and Matt Lipsy just to get their experience on like what it was like training at sea level and then running at altitude, and if they had any good tips. So that was definitely valuable experience, or valuable, knowledge. And then just kind of checked out like some Strava segments to get an idea on how to pace myself. I knew it was going to be a long race. My A goal was to break 3 hours. B goal was to place in the top 10. I wound up finishing 8th place for females, and I ran a like 3:10. Not that it really matters, because the weather was kind of shitty at the top. It was like totally like no visibility, super fucking cold. But it was a lot of fun. I jostled for some positions. I took it pretty easy going out. And pretty much I just stayed between, like, I think I made it as far up as 6th place, as far back as 9th. I wound up catching 2 girls in the second half of the race. And then Christina Mascarena, she's the local who like freaking runs bar trail every other weekend. But she knows what she's doing. I fully expected her to catch me. But super happy with how things went. It was an awesome day. Took it conservatively first half, and I really saved for the last 3 miles. I knew that they were going to be intense because they were at altitude. And like coming from, I think I live at 100 feet above sea level, knew it was going to be a challenge. It was pretty uneventful. The first 10 miles, they just like started ticking off. Kept grinding away. I hydrated at every aid station, and I like probably overhydrated the few days going up to the event. I knew that would be important, so definitely annoyed my husband by having to piss every like 45 minutes, but I think it helped. And so yeah, first 10 miles were pretty good. And I was like waiting for the altitude to kick in. When mile 10 to 11 went by, and like I still felt pretty good, I was like, maybe things won't be so bad. But at mile 11 and a half, I've never had a nosebleed in my life, but I like noticed my nose started to turn into a faucet and it wouldn't stop dripping. And then I realized, like, I licked my lips and it tasted freaking weird, and I looked down at my hands and there's bright red on my hands, and like the altitude was definitely starting to kick in. So I was like, what is going on here? It didn't register that it was blood on my hands and that I had blood all over my face. Like, I don't know, it probably took a minute or so for me to realize what was going on there. And then my hands also got like really swollen. But I don't know, like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not far, I mean, it's still at mile 11, I still have like 40 minutes left to run. But what do? You keep going, right? So I started doing this weird thing where, like, I realized that the altitude was affecting me, because I just like couldn't move my legs, or like I could shuffle, but it was definitely starting to get a little dizzy. What I wound up doing is like taking a few short breaths and then a deep breath, deep exhale, and then I'd shuffle for like 10 steps. And then I'd have to do that again. And I definitely walked like over all of the rocks. The last 2 miles, I think, took me like maybe 45 minutes. It was really slow going, but you know, I just kept moving. 9th place, Kristen Lane. She's actually ran Loon Mountain Race. I saw her catching up to me and I just didn't want to get caught. You know, worked so hard to get up to 8th place and stay there, and so that kept me motivated to keep going and like not let her catch me. The finish line this year, going up to it, you know, mentally I was thinking, like, I've done Mount Washington before. I've handled cold weather like this. I can get through it. I was really sad when I had the realization that I wasn't gonna get a nice fleece blanket at the top. But I also thought, you know, at least this isn't upper walking boss like at Loon. Not that steep. It's just hard because there's no oxygen. But yeah, this year the finish line, there wasn't any arch because it was so fucking windy and cloudy and frozen at the top. Like, there was rime ice on the mirrors of the shuttle vans. It was so cold. But so yeah, I didn't know what the finish line looked like, and I missed a couple turns, which is kind of dumb, but I can get lost anywhere. But yeah, so I mean, like, finally I saw the timing mats through a cloud and just like went for it, and I saw Fred Ross. He's like a local legend for mountain running. He's at every big mountain event. He's great. But yeah, you know, finished 8th overall. Nosebleed eventually stopped, and was able to get some food and, you know, chat with a couple runners on my way down the mountain, which the way down, by the way, it took 2 hours to drive down. That was really painful, and I think next year I'm just gonna run the marathon because I could probably get down faster than sitting in a bus full of sweaty runners, you know, sitting and just like getting cramped up. But anyway, that was my experience. It was incredibly painful and beautiful, and I loved every second of it. Up next for me, I might do the beer mile in Manchester, UK. I might do Barkley Fall Classic, or maybe I'll just do like a local 50-mile trail race. Either way, you know, excited to see y'all on the trails. Happy running.
Great job, Kassandra, and thank you so much for following up again. Always great to hear from you, and you are pretty wicked tough, and it is good to see you running well. All right, an event that's coming up, Great Shunemunk Traverse, 42K in Mountainville, New York. It's a beautiful and rugged event over the long path. I connected with the RD, taking over that helm with a bit of changes there. The well-traveled and well-experienced Marcin Mrowka. Go ahead and cue us into what's coming up with the Great Shunemunk Traverse.
Hello everyone, my name is Marcin Mrowka, and I would like to invite you to the race we're gonna have on September 26th, Sunday, the Great Shunemunk Traverse. The race will be held on the Shunemunk Mountain, which is close to the Cornwall, New York, It's only an hour and 20 minutes from New York City, but it's a real gem. It's a unique place to run, has great slopes, trails like Jessup, like Dark Hollow, Sweet Clover, Long Path, and it's really deserved to be our playground, I mean, for the runners. And it's way less crowded than other Hudson Valley places. So I can promise you on my side that I will do my best to give you at least 6,000 feet of elevation on a course on a distance of marathon. I'm here at the Gonzaga Park where the start and finish will be located, and I'm doing the adjustment to the course, the final adjustment to the course. You can find all the details starting Monday about the aid stations, the course maps, and anything else. If you have any questions, you can always email me, and you can register on the UltraSignUp. Just remember the Great Shunemunk Traverse, September 26th, Sunday, 7 a.m. And I hope to see you all.
All right, also that is coming right up. Check that out if you're interested. And then also thankful to check in this week with Jason Logue of RunPA, as well as a couple hats that he wears, including RD of the cult classic Conestoga Trail Run. We were able to check in with Jason, and he's going to cue us into not only some of the events that he's got coming up in his lineup, including Conestoga, but also some of the other events coming up on deck for the Northeast. So, Jason, take it away.
Hey everyone, hope you're having a great week. My name is Jason Logue, and I'm here to share with you some of the races I direct here in southeastern Pennsylvania. Aside from being a race director, I'm also the owner of RunPA.org and president of the Lancaster Roadrunners Club. So if you're in the area, give me a shout. Love to hang out for a little bit. Now on to upcoming events in southeastern part of Pennsylvania. First one that I have coming up is Sunday, September 26th, is the Conestoga Trail Run, known as 10 Tough Miles. This year we're actually Trail Sisters approved, which I think is awesome. This is a 10-mile trail that runs along the Conestoga Trail, along the Susquehanna River and the Riverlands. It is probably one of the most brutal, rocky, and challenging trails to be found right here in eastern Pennsylvania. The course is very hilly. It has numerous stream crossings. However, the best part, I think, is you get to experience several of Lancaster Conservancy's protected preserves. It's probably one of the most scenic races that you'll ever encounter around here. Beautiful hilltop views once you get to the top of the Susquehanna River. We have clear feeder streams, huge rock formations, and there's abundance of mountain laurel and rhododendrons. This race we do cap at 200 runners, and you must be 14 years old or older to enter. This course record is held by Zach Miller, who did this race full 10 miles in 1 hour and 22 minutes. So we actually do have a prize of $100 if you can come out and beat that. And we also do award all of our age group participants and our overall male and female runners. A portion of this, of the proceeds of this race, are donated to the Lancaster Conservancy as well to help continue their mission to protect and save natural lands. Race has 3 aid stations and a cutoff time to make it to the pinnacle, which is mile 7, and you need to make it there by within 3 hours of the race start. Awards, lunch, snacks, and drinks are actually provided right after the race as well. The next race coming up is Saturday, October 23rd. This is the 7th annual Dire Wolf. This is another 10-mile trail race held at Wolf's Hollow Park, which is in Akron, Pennsylvania. The Dire Wolf is a challenging trail run consisting of hills, rocks and roots, a rugged downhill switchback, and a small shallow creek crossing. The course is a mix of fire trail, single track, and grass, and runners of all speeds and abilities are welcome. The one unique thing about this race, it's a huge benefit for the Octorara School District cross-country team. So the school actually has a cross-country team come out, their booster club, and you'll find the kids all along the race. But it is not as hard as the Conestoga, but it is a challenging 10-mile run that definitely is a fun one. And that also has post-race refreshments provided for all participants. Moving on, the one race that I do for RunPA, is coming up on Saturday, November 13th. And this is the Mac Daddy Trail Festival. And this is going to consist of a half trail marathon, a 10K, and then actually a free kids trail run, which is a 5K distance as well. This is going to be Saturday, November 13th, and it's going to be held at Camp Mac. For those of you that took part in my trail jamboree that just happened a couple weekends ago, you know what my trail run is like there. If you liked my trail festival a few weeks ago, you're not going to want to miss out on this race. This half trail marathon, I am going to take you up to the climb up on Eagle Rock. For those that haven't experienced this, I think you should come out and give it a shout, give it a try. It's a fun one. I'm sure most of you have heard about the Trail Festival, which was the 24-hour, 12-hour, 6-hour, and then I had the 10K and 5K run and the kids run the following morning. But it's going to be a good one. The benefit of coming out here to Camp Mac 2 is you actually get real showers, you get good food, real bathrooms, a lot of fun, and I do promise you'll get at least a hill or two. So that's going to be some of the races that I have. The Conestoga Trail Run I direct that for the Lancaster Road Runners Club. The Dire Wolf I direct for the benefit of the Octorara School District, the booster. And the Camp Mac, the Mac Daddy Half is actually a race that I direct for RunPA. Moving on to other events on the deck that are actually coming this weekend, which include the Deerfly 5K and 10K in Mansfield, New York. The Baker Trail Ultra Challenge 50 in Schmicksburg, Pennsylvania. The Heiner Half is coming up in North Bend, PA. The Backyard Squatch Ultra is in Branchville, New Jersey. And the Mine Hill Half in Roxbury, Connecticut. For other races that I direct and for other programs, you can log on to runpa.org and check under the events. There's a whole list of races that are in this part of the area and throughout the state of Pennsylvania as well. And if you have a race that you'd like me to put on my event schedule, just shoot me an email and I'll be more than happy to promote your trail race as well, and any race, in fact, that takes place in our area. So thanks very much, and happy trails, everybody.
All right, so Jason, thanks for checking in. Anybody else out there, if you're interested, RDs, coaches, whatever, in plugging in, giving a clip, coaching tip, plug for your event coming up, group run, trail run project, whatever it is, let me know. It'd be great to have your voice in the mix as part of the collective. Just reach out and send me a direct message. Thanks to all those who are liking these videos, sharing them in your own network, sharing them on entities like the East Coast Trail and Ultra, or any of those. I really appreciate it. And thanks for tuning in. I am starting to progressively get eaten by mosquitoes, and I may jump in the river one more time. So thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you next week. Till then, see ya!